Good morning, everyone. I want to call the regular meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority to session at 9:05 on Wednesday, August 31st. Mr. Tez, any public comment?
Yes, ma'am. There are two individuals signed up, but I believe they're signed up for item number 4. So if you'd like to take them with those.
Okay, great. So let's go on to item number 3, adoption of minutes for the CRRMA board meeting of August 10th, 2016. The board members would have received the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So item number 3 has been approved. I'm going to take items 4 and 5 together, so I'm going to...
Actually, if I could interject, if we could take 4 first and dispose of the appeal first, and then we can move into 5.
Got it.
Please.
Okay, thank you. So item number 4, discussion and action on an appeal filed by International Eagle Enterprises, Inc. regarding the procurement for construction of the Rojas Drive Improvement Project. Mr. Tess?
Thank you. Raymond Tejas, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. What I thought I would do for item number 4, the appeal that was read into the record, is provide a very brief PowerPoint, and then I believe we'll turn it over to the individuals that are involved in the appeal for any comments that they may have. And then, should the board be interested, we can retire into executive session for further deliberations with your attorney. So with that in mind, in terms of process, if I could have IT bring up the PowerPoint. So we're going to be talking about the Rojas Drive Improvement Project. And this is the very brief agenda, and you'll remember a lot of this. This is very based off of the PowerPoint that was presented at the last board meeting. We're going to talk about the project purpose, location, and scope, just so that you are refreshed on the project itself. We're going to talk about the bids received, the letter of protest, and the appeal that has been filed. So the project purpose, Rojas Drive project is one of the 2013 CMP, Comprehensive Mobility Plan projects through the county, and it was planned to be let in 2016, which it was. The project budget comes from the El Paso County Vehicle Registration Fee bond proceeds. As you'll recall, we issued $72 million in bonds. We're using those bond proceeds to develop design and construction activities for various projects within the CMP. The county and El Paso entered into an agreement whereby the RMA was responsible for design specifically of this particular project. Design has been completed by a design firm that we selected under our expedited procurement process, and the completed designs were advertised per board direction, and the RMA is now seeking to let and manage the construction component of this particular project. Here's a map of the Comprehensive Mobility Plan. Here is a graphic that shows you specifically where this project is. It begins roughly where the city of El Paso limits end on the far east side and runs to East Lake Boulevard. So that is this particular project. We're talking about a 4- and 6-lane divided roadway with raised median. I should mention also, of course, we have our general engineering consultant team here with us. Should you have any technical questions, we can get into those details with them. The project itself consists of concrete pavement and curb, 5-foot bike lanes, landscaping, continuous illumination, storm drainage, signing, and striping. So all of the usual amenities for a roadway. The role of the county on this one is to provide the design and the construction funding through the vehicle registration fee that has been assigned to the Regional Mobility Authority. Ultimately, though, as you know, the project will be turned back to the county. So because of that, the county will also provide owner decisions and guidance for project issues that require resolution and or input. So that's the county's role. The RMA's role, as we touched on, is to complete the design for the project, which is now done, to prepare and let the project for construction bids, which we're in the process of. And once we move on to the next step, which would be to award to a construction contractor, then we will provide construction management services through the construction of the project. These are the official letting results. Horizon Construction Limited was the apparent low bidder at $3.8 million. International Eagle Enterprises was the second low bidder at $4.1 million. The engineer's probable cost of construction was $4.3 million. So once the bids were received, and I should mention 5 bids were received, and they were publicly opened on July 28th, 2016. By August 1st, the RMA had received a letter of protest from International Eagle Enterprises challenging the apparent low bidder's bidding capacity for the project. On August 4th, after review of the protest, I should mention too, the review of the protest included consultation and discussion with the County of El Paso as the ultimate funding agency, as well as TxDOT, because TxDOT is involved in our procurement policies and processes as well. So after consultation and discussion with them and our attorneys, a decision and response, and this is required by our procurement policies, a decision and response to the letter of protest was provided by me as your executive director, and we denied the protest. International Eagle Enterprises then submitted its appeal of the executive director's decision and response on August 11th, providing a copy to the board as required by the procurement policies. And I should mention the procurement policy actually states that written appeals shall include all information contained in the original written protest, as well as any newly discovered documentation supporting the protest that was not reasonably available to the protester when the original protest was filed. Subject to all applicable rules, laws governing the authority, the decision of the board regarding an appeal shall be final. So that's where we are now. We're in the appeal process. Each of you all have received a copy of the appeal submitted by International Eagle's attorney. This is the process that we will utilize for the appeal. So now that I've provided the background, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I will be asking that we convene an executive session so you can deliberate with your attorney. But if the board desires, the next step would be to allow the appealing party to address the board and any other interested parties from the public. And as I mentioned, there have been 2 individuals that have signed up, one from the appealing party and one from the apparent low bid party as well. So if you desire, you can allow them to address the board, but any comments made in particular by the appealing party would be limited to only that information which was included in the written appeal. So they cannot present new information to you that was not presented in the appeal. At that point, the board, I would suggest, retires into executive session for consultation with its attorney. Once you receive that consultation, you will come back out and then rule on the appeal while in open session. Of course, that's required by state statute. At that point, then, you can move to item 5 of the agenda, and depending upon your ruling, you can either reject all the bids and reissue the procurement or award the project to the lowest responsible bidder. So that's the process that I propose.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Well, Madam Chair, I think it would be prudent for us, with your permission, or the rest of the board, that we hear the comments first.
No, I agree. I think Ms. Cruz is going to provide some information to us.
May I?
Of course.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Chantel Cruz. I'm here on behalf of International Eagle. My understanding from Mr. Tejas is that everyone has a copy of the appeal that we filed on August the 11th. I do have a couple of extra copies if they are needed. Just let me know. Plenty of reading. I do want to say thank you to the board for hearing our appeal, International's Eagle's appeal, and I also want to thank Mr. Tejas for the courtesy and professionalism that he has extended to me and to my client in this appeal process. International Eagle's appeal is based on 2 things. Based on the argument that the lowest bidder, in this case Horizon, was not qualified to bid on the Rojas project based on bidding capacity. The project was not a waived project by TxDOT, whereas Horizon's pre-qualification through the bidder's questionnaire would apply. And even if the project was waived, or considered to be waived, there's no evidence that Horizon actually met the bid capacity requirements by TxDOT and the authority to bid on the project. Now, in the bid documents and the authority's procurement policies, it has been made clear to contractors that the authority is going to rely on the TxDOT pre-qualification process. And only contractors who are qualified by TxDOT may bid on the authority's projects. And the notice to contractors in the bid documents here again refer to the TxDOT pre-qualification process and urges contractors compliance with all technical pre-qualification requirements. As Mr. Tejas told you in his presentation, the engineer's estimated probable cost was $4.3 million. Back in May of 2016, the estimated probable cost was listed at $4.8 million in a presentation to contractors who were interested in bidding on the project. Now, pre-qualification through TxDOT obviously has two processes. The first is the confidential questionnaire, and the second is the bidder's questionnaire, and they are completely different. The confidential questionnaire is required for contractors to be able and eligible to bid on all classes of construction and maintenance projects, and that includes emergency projects. The contractors must submit their related supported financial documents, and these documents, financials, have to be audited and prepared by an independent CPA. Financials have to be less than a year old and approved for one letting prior to the anniversary date. And really, these audited financial statements provide the highest level of assurance by the CPA regarding the contractor's financial capability and capacity. Now, in this project, the confidential questionnaire eligibility was provided by International Eagle. They are eligible and pre-qualified through the confidential questionnaire process. And our understanding is that the other three contractors were also approved through that process. Now, the bidder's questionnaire, and this is according to TxDOT's own procedures, are for waived or emergency projects only. And that emphasis is contained in the TxDOT bidder's questionnaire, the instructions and the rules provided by TxDOT regarding how this pre-qualification process is going to be applied. We provided a copy of that bidder's questionnaire in our appeal as one of the exhibits. Waived projects, according to TxDOT, include some traditional work, but really it's more geared towards smaller dollar specialty work, landscaping, installation of traffic signals, and maintenance work, not a $4.3 million or $4.8 million project. According to the bidder's questionnaire, there's 5 different levels of bidding capacity. I'll go through this quickly. Without any financials or even good financials, a contractor can have a bidding capacity of $300,000. The next level goes up to $500,000 with a compiled balance sheet and some experience. It goes up to $1 million with, again, a compiled balance sheet, additional experience, and additional projects. Number 4 is a bidding capacity of $1 million up to $3 million, and again, this is a compiled balance sheet and does take into consideration experience of the principals. And then number 5, for a bidding capacity over $1 million, the contractor would have to submit full sets of financials reviewed by a CPA, reviewed instead of audited by a CPA, and it does take experience into consideration and uses other criteria and factors known to TxDOT regarding the bidding capacity. So this slide basically shows where we are, the differences between the confidential questionnaire and the bidder's questionnaire, and where the bidding capacity goes with the various contractors who are pre-qualified under TxDOT under each of those. For the Rojas project, there is absolutely no indication that the Rojas project was considered a waived project by TxDOT. The only way a bidder's qualification, pre-qualification could or should be used according to TxDOT would be if this were a waived project. There's no notification to the contractors that this was a waived project or considered to be a waived project. And really, again, we would argue that this project is not appropriate to be considered a waived project because of its scope and because of the dollar amount involved. Now, My understanding is there may be some issue regarding whether the authority can, quote unquote, consider it to be a waived project, or we have to depend on TxDOT. We would argue that the pre-qualification process that's relied upon by all the contractors pursuant to the authority's bid documents and procurement process points to the TxDOT procedures that are used not only for the confidential questionnaire but also the bidder's questionnaire. And this authority should look to the pre-qualification. If a contractor is only pre-qualified under the bidder's questionnaire, then that should be, according to TxDOT, for waived projects or emergency projects only. Now, even if the Rojas project is considered to be waived, there's no confirmation, no evidence that Horizon had the requisite bidding capacity equal to or greater than the $4.8 million engineer's estimate of probable cost, original. My understanding is that the general engineering consultant did contact TxDOT to determine which contractors were pre-qualified. But there's no evidence regarding how the GEC determined or what was asked regarding how Horizon was pre-qualified. If the question is to TxDOT, are these contractors pre-qualified? If they're pre-qualified under a confidential questionnaire or bidder's questionnaire, they're pre-qualified. The question is which process was used by TxDOT, which process was submitted and used by the contractor in order to be pre-qualified under TxDOT. And there's evidence, again, no evidence of what criteria was used either by TxDOT or the GEC to determine whether Horizon had the requisite bidding capacity for this particular process or project. Now, in our appeal, I did go through the five processes that are listed by TxDOT regarding the bidding capacities under the bidder's questionnaire. And really, the only way that Horizon would be qualified, pre-qualified, to bid on the Rojas project at $4.8 million, or 4.3, whichever one you want to use, would be through the last process, the last analysis of a level 5. And that was the $1 million or more as far as the bidding capacity. And again, it was reviewed financials instead of audited financials by a CPA. We have no evidence regarding whether the GEC requested verification of the bidding capacity at the $4.8 million or at the $4.3 million figure. We have no evidence regarding whether TxDOT went through all of the processes listed in Level 5, and I'm not saying that they didn't, but there's certainly no evidence of them having done so, or none provided to International Eagle or other contractors. The only evidence we have is that TxDOT was contacted, but we don't have any indication of the specific information that was provided by TxDOT to the GEC or what specific information was asked by the GEC regarding bidding capacity. So basically, International Eagle would urge you to consider that processes matter. The processes matter regarding the contractors that bid on projects for this authority, and the processes should matter regarding the qualifications and pre-qualifications for all of the projects that come out of the authority. This was not a waived project, so the pre-qualification of Horizon through the bidder's questionnaire should not be applicable. And even if this were a waived project, there's no evidence regarding the specific processes, questions, and analysis that was used by the GEC or by TxDOT. If you have any questions, I'm certainly willing to take them.
Any questions for Ms. Cruz?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
We also have Hector Beltran. Mr. Beltran?
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me an opportunity to speak. I will be brief.
Can you just introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Hector E. Beltran. I'm here representing Horizon Construction, who was the lowest qualified bidder, and hopefully will be allowed to start on this project. I also want to thank you for allowing me to be here. I also concur and thank Mr. Deas for his professionalism and his work on this. He's been very fair, I think, to both sides, as I'm sure you all will be too, in taking into consideration the issues that are before you. The issue seems squarely to be capacity. And so the only question that should be before the board here is whether Horizon is qualified to do this type of work. The question is, are they allowed to bid on projects the size of $4.3 or $4.8 million? The processes of TxDOT are being questioned, but TxDOT isn't here right now. And what TxDOT does is up to TxDOT. Ultimately, I believe it's within the board's authority to depend on what TxDOT says. And if TxDOT says that Horizon is pre-qualified and has the ability to bid on these types of projects, then the board should feel satisfied that if they meet TxDOT's requirements, then under the rules governing this board, they are qualified. On August the 16th, 2016, a letter was requested from TxDOT requesting, are these guys qualified? Well, yes, for $28 million, they're qualified. This is not the only project that Horizon has in this county. Horizon has been around for quite some time. There are many projects that it works on, as does International Eagle, no doubt. But ultimately, the only question should be whether they have the capacity to bid, and clearly they do. $28 million is what the Texas Department of Transportation says. Under your own rules, they are qualified, they're pre-qualified because TxDOT says they are. It's that simple. TxDOT has worked with Horizon on many occasions. They do this process for many contractors throughout the state of Texas. They find that they are qualified. They bid, they're the lowest qualified bidder, and they should be awarded the contract. And so I encourage you all to go ahead and grant the authority for the RMA to sign the contract and allow Horizon to do the work that's needed on Far East El Paso. Again, I'm also happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Mr. Beltran? Thank you, Mr. Beltran.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. I would entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Madam Chairman, I would like to hear from our GEC.
Mr. Head?
Mr. Niemer, should you be interested, we could bring the GEC into executive session for part of the consultation if you're interested in doing that. Unless there's...
You know, and I'll defer to the board, but I'm not sure there's a reason. Should we not just, hear what the GEC has to say?
Certainly. It's up to you.
In open session.
Certainly.
Mr. Head.
David Head with the GEC Atkins. I don't know really what to say. I think that we have followed the rules to what was prescribed to us to do, and we did check to make sure that Horizon had the bidding capacity that they needed to bid this job, and we were satisfied that they did do that.
Through
They had
TxDOT?
it. Through TxDOT, yes, sir. We called TxDOT, and we got, they won't really tell us what their bidding capacity is unless the contractor will release it, or we have to go through the contractor to get it released. But they do get a letter, and we did ask, and they will tell us a range. So we asked for basically for the range of the engineer's estimate, which was I think it was 4.3 million, I believe, is what the engineer's estimate was, if I remember right. But we did ask for what that bidding capacity was, and they told us that it was in that range. So yes, that they had. You can say, well, is it 4 million or 5 million? They'll say yes, it's in between there, and yes, they have that capacity. So that's how we arrived at. they were pre-qualified to do that, and then we did get an email from them later stating that that was their bidding capacity. So we felt they were qualified to bid.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So
Matt-
moved. Oh, sorry.
Madam Chair, forgive me, but we've heard from Mr. Beltran and Mr. Head, and I don't know, Ms. Cruz, perhaps Ms. Cruz has some comments in rebuttal, or have we heard what we need to hear?
Just a brief rebuttal, and I'll go back to the arguments that I made previously. The authority has made it very clear through its bid documents and also the procurement policies that it is relying upon TxDOT regarding the qualification of the contractors. And while Mr. Beltran says TxDOT isn't here, well, if you're relying upon TxDOT's information, then you do need to look at the actual processes. There are two processes regarding the pre-qualification, one being the confidential questionnaire in which a contractor provides audited financial statements, which is the highest assurance from a CPA that a contractor has the requisite financial capacity and ability to do the projects, whether they be for TxDOT or for this authority. The second process is the bidder's questionnaire, which by TxDOT's own emphasis and own rules is for waived projects or emergency projects only. And waived projects are clearly defined by TxDOT to be smaller amounts, smaller projects, routine maintenance, and then of course the emergency projects, and we're not talking about an emergency project here. But the only time that TxDOT says it's going to pre-qualify someone under a bidder's questionnaire is for a waived project. So if this authority is going to be using TxDOT for pre-qualification, we would urge you to also look at how TxDOT is applying that pre-qualification, whether through the confidential questionnaire or through the bidder's questionnaire. Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Head, Madam Chair. You have the email, Mr. Head?
No, not on me.
Do you have it, Mr. Tess?
Okay.
Madam Chair, would it be okay for him to read the email from TxDOT, or would that be a matter best conducted in executive
I think
session?
it's best conducted in executive session. We can get to executive session this morning. And we can have Mr. Head also participate in that.
Yes, ma'am. I'll defer to executive session.
All right, can I have a motion?
Move to go to executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move into executive session of the CRRMA. The time is 9:29 a.m., August 31st, 2016. And the CRRMA Board of Directors will now retire to executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 55.071 for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel for deliberations regarding the Rojas Improvement Project procurement appeal. We will reconvene the open meeting upon conclusion of the executive session. Thank you. Okay. We're ready. Okay, need a motion to reconvene in open session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is now 10:07 a.m. on August 31st, 2016, and the Board of Directors of the CRRMA is reconvening in its open meeting after deliberations in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 55.071. The Board consulted with legal counsel and discussed the Rojas Improvement Project procurement appeal. The Board took no action in executive session. Mr. Woody.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we reject the appeal filed by International Eagle Enterprises Incorporated regarding the procurement for construction of the Rojas Drive Improvement Project.
Do I have a
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to item number 5. I'll read that. Number 5, discussion and action on the following instruments as they relate to the procurement for construction of the Rojas Drive Improvement Project. Board resolution to 1, reject all bids and reissue the procurement, or 2, award the project to the lowest responsible bidder and authorize the executive director to negotiate and execute a construction contract with such bidder. B, supplemental work authorization number 2 with Hewlett-Zollars, Inc. for design services during construction. C, work authorization number 27.2 with Atkins North America, Inc. for construction engineering and inspection services. And D, amendment to VRF project development agreement with the County of El Paso for construction funding. Okay. So we'll look at, discuss 5A. Any discussion on 5A? We're going to take that separately.
Yes, so Raymond Tejas again. On this item, as you'll note, I'm glad you'll take item 5A separately, and we can take 5B, C, and D next. Ultimately, based on the action on the prior item, the choice that you now have before you under item 5A is specifically to reject all bids and reissue the procurement, or to award the project to the lowest responsible bidder and authorize the executive director to negotiate and execute a contract with such bidder. At this point, because the appeal has been rejected, the apparent low bidder is Horizon Construction 1 Limited.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept Horizon Construction Limited as the contractor for this item.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Any discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, thank you. 5A approved.
Now, I can, you may recall, this is very similar to the items that that you heard at the last meeting. Let me back up here for a moment. If you'll recall the PowerPoint that I provided this morning in terms of the project process, you'll recall that obviously this is a comprehensive mobility plan project. Hewlett-Zollars is the engineer of record for this particular project. What I am requesting approval of under 5B is a supplemental work authorization to Hewlett-Zollars to allow them to provide design services during construction now that you've awarded the contract. So that's what you see under 5B, and that amount is approximately $50,000 for item 5B. Under 5C, as you know, we use Atkins North America as part of our general engineering consultant team. So 5C then, excuse me, would authorize the execution of work authorization number 27.2, which would provide the RMA with the general engineering consultant support through construction. So that one is approximately $606,000. And the last item is obviously a very important one. As you know, this is a comprehensive mobility plan project that we're developing with the county. The county is funding these projects, and as I mentioned in the PowerPoint as well, we had an agreement with the County of El Paso whereby they provided authority for us to use the vehicle registration fee bond proceeds to complete the design. Now we need an amendment to that interlocal agreement to authorize us to have access to the vehicle registration fee bonds for the construction component. So that total is just over $4.8 million, which includes the construction contract, the work authorization for oversight, the supplemental for design services during construction, and a contingency figure as well. So that's what item 5D is. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of items 5B, C, and D, and they can be taken at once should you be interested.
Any questions or discussions for Mr. Chance? You want to move to approve?
Motion to approve items B, C, and D?
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So, we'll move on to item number 6, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute supplemental work authorization number 1 with AECom for additional design services to be provided on the Vista del Sol Drive project. Mr. Taz.
Yes, ma'am. So the Vista del Sol project is another project under the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. This one is requesting an amendment to the work authorization that we issued to AECom, which is providing the design services for Vista del Sol. Incidentally, I'd mention again, we have our general engineering consultant team here with us. Should you have any questions on the specific additional services that are being provided by AECom. But in essence, these are additional services that have been requested, reviewed, and approved, including the fee amount by the County of El Paso as the ultimate provider of the funds for this particular project. So this has been reviewed at length. It's additional right-of-way mapping and survey services for Vista del Sol. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of item 6 as well.
It's 19,000.
This one is, how much is this? Sorry, 1 second. I'm just pulling it up here. This one is $35,147.06. That includes AECom with subcontractors ZWA Surveying and Trey.
It's 35,000.
Yes, ma'am. $35,147.06. That can be found in the contract as Exhibit B1.
Okay. All right. Very good. Any questions or comments for Mr. Tays?
Motion to approve?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 6 is approved. Item number 7, discussion and action on a board resolution adopting the CRRMA budget for fiscal year 2017 as reviewed by the CRRMA Finance Committee.
So for this item, you have provided as backup is the board resolution, which as attachment 1 to that board resolution, it actually includes the cash flow statement that we use as our annual operating budget. This item was presented in depth at the Finance Committee meeting of yesterday. So I would ask the treasurer, who sits as the chair of the Finance Committee, if you have any comments on this. Otherwise, I would recommend approval of this, of the proposed fiscal year 17 budget.
Mr. Price?
Madam Chair, the Finance Committee met yesterday, reviewed thoroughly the documents provided by our Executive Director, and we recommend that the budget for fiscal year 2017 be approved.
Thank you. You want to make that in a motion?
I will.
Okay. It's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item number 7 has been approved. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 8, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an engagement letter with Pena Briones McDaniel and Company, a certified public accounting firm, through August 31st, 2018. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So this item, as you'll recall, Peña Briones is an outside CPA firm that provides various accounting services to the RMA. In fact, they play a very important role for us. They serve really as a liaison between the RMA and the City of El Paso, as the city serves as our fiscal agent. So they confirm that all of the activities that we request of the city as our fiscal agent are completed. And so it's a huge role, and it's been very helpful to us over the years. I mentioned that the city has undergone some changes in personnel and structure over this past year, a lot of which I think will be very helpful for us as we move forward in terms of the financial activities of the RMA. By way of example, and I think I've mentioned this to you all before, the city has created separate banking accounts for the RMA rather than housing us as a component within their general fund, which is, I think, a very helpful move for us. So we intend, and so far it looks good, that we will be able to shift all of our funds out of the city's concentration account into these separate accounts on September 1. So we're hopeful we can make that date with the city work. But again, a lot of the work that went into getting us to this point is due to Peña Briones. So what I'm requesting under item 8 is authorization to execute the new engagement letter with them to continue for the coming next 2 years, 2 fiscal years.
Mr. Tibbs, do you want to introduce our accountant?
Certainly. Melissa Guevara is here from the Peña Briones accounting firm. Thank you for mentioning that. Should you have any questions?
Yeah, Ms. Guevara, thank you so much for all the work that you do. You've done a superb job for the RMA. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Item 8 is approved. Number 9, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an engagement letter with the Gibson, Ruddock, Patterson LLC firm for the CRRMA's fiscal year 2016 annual audit. Mr. Tibbs.
Thank you. So as you recall, the RMA last year went through a procurement for a new annual audit firm. As you'll also recall, the RMAs are required by state statute to undergo an annual audit each year, and we post that online. It's available to the public. We also provide a copy to the City of El Paso and the county, and also to TxDOT. So we went through a procurement last year. The board selected Gibson, Ruddock, Patterson, and we went through our first annual audit with them last year. Steep learning curve, no doubt, for them, but I think we made a lot of progress, and we are ready. We will be ready shortly to begin the annual audit of fiscal year 16 with Gibson, Ruddock, Patterson. Subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of item 9.
Any questions, comments?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 9 has been approved. Item 10, discussion and action on a board resolution adopting the CRRMA's investment policy to incorporate the City of El Paso's recently adopted investment policy as the city serves as a fiscal agent to the CRRMA. Mr. Tibbs?
Yes, so as I mentioned before, the city serves as our fiscal agent. Therefore, what we have done over the past, actually since the very beginning, what we've done in terms of an investment policy is we simply adopt the City of El Paso's investment policy. Now, I will mention there are some minor adjustments that we make to the city's investment policy, and that includes specifically, actually, let me take a step back. The way that we adopt the investment policy of the City of El Paso is through a board resolution. That board resolution then, within its recitals, actually identifies unique financial activities that the Regional Mobility Authority has undergone in past years or intends to utilize in the future that the City of El Paso does not use. So in other words, we adopt the investment policy and then tweak it through our board resolution. Specifically, the revisions that we include relate to guaranteed investment contracts, and that is to allow for the use of guaranteed investment contracts, and that is because we utilize one through the Interloop, the States Per 601 project, the bond issuance. The other item that is a little bit different than the City of El Paso is the fully collateralized repurchase agreement that we entered into, and I believe that one, if I remember correctly, was under the Interloop project as well. and that set forth the collateralized repurchase agreement. They have to be secured by obligations at least equal to 102%. So those are the modifications to the City of El Paso's investment policy that we adopt through the board resolution. I'd mention also, for your comfort, that the board resolution was actually drafted by bond counsel. So that's where this comes from. So we know that what our bond counsel is doing in terms of our bond issuances in the past and in the future marry up very well with our investment policy. So subject to your questions on this one, I would recommend approval of the RMA's investment policy.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Tance? Open it for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Item number 11. Discussion and action on the following items as they relate to the Cesar Chavez Express toll lanes. A, board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an amendment to work authorization number 20.2 with Atkins North America, Inc. as the RMA's general engineering consultant for the provision of various toll operation services in fiscal 2017. And B, annual base toll rate increase for the Cesar Chavez Express toll lanes as required by the RMA's toll policy.
Yes, ma'am. So item 11A then is the work authorization 20.2. You may recall that each year we enter into a new work authorization with the general engineering consultant to provide operations and maintenance support. As the RMA has a very streamlined staff, I guess is the way I could say it, we require outside assistance for those operations and maintenance activities. That includes everything from handling billing inquiries to management of the consultants that actually replace cameras and any and everything you can think of related to the operation and maintenance of the Cesar Chavez facility comes under the O&M, the work authorization 20.2. Now, 20.2 was the work authorization that we entered into for the prior fiscal year. We actually have funds remaining under work authorization 20.2. So what I'm requesting under item 11A is an extension of the term of 20.2, but leaving the amount the same. So in other words, we'll utilize the funds that we had previously allocated under work authorization 20.2, utilize that going into this coming year. As you'll note also, Cesar Chavez is currently, we are in the process of evaluating a way to remove tolls from that particular facility. The work authorization 20.2 allows for that under the existing scope, and the funds available will be utilized towards that process. So that's what we're doing under item 11A. 11B, incidentally, is just a more informational than anything else. Your toll policies adopted by the Regional Mobility Authority Board require an annual increase to the toll rates for Cesar Chavez. So that's more informational than anything else. That was adopted by policy some time ago. So subject to your questions, I would request approval of item 11A, and there's no action required for 11B.
Mr. Wardy?
Well, my question was just answered, since it seems a little superfluous to increase the toll when we're going to drop it. So, but is it an automatic increase? Mr.
Yes, sir.
Tess?
So
Okay.
by policy, it implements. Now, the issue is we haven't removed tolls, so that's why you see us renewing work authorization 20.2. We have to treat it as though we're going to have another full year ahead. But having said that, I've just had a call with TxDOT earlier this week. We've set up another call with them the week after next to go forward with the process of removing the tolls, and they seem very interested in moving that process along. So it's moving forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions? I'll entertain a motion for 11A.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, I think we finished our business. I'd open it for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We are now adjourned at 10:27 on August 31st.
Thank you.
Thank you.